Greetings, you're listening to the Cold Call Lawcast, the Minnesota Law School podcast featuring students from the University of Minnesota Law School, the University of St. Thomas School of Law, and the Mitchell-Hamlin School of Law. Welcome everyone to the Cold Call Lawcast. I'm Mitch, a law student from the University of St. Thomas School of Law, and with me are my co-hosts Hannah.
Hi.
From the University of Minnesota, Anthony.
Hello.
From the Mitchell-Hamlin School of Law, and Abby.
Hello.
From the University of Minnesota Law School.
First off, before we start, I just want to say we all sound like we're answering the phone.
Hello.
Hello.
No, that's not how I answer
now
my
on,
phone.
we have to answer every time like a question.
You guys want to hear how I answer my phone? Brr, brr, fuck is this?
I always go, hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. So on today's podcast, we'll be answering questions that we received from listeners, and we'll read a little bit of hate mail for Hannah.
Hell yeah.
So first thing I wanted to talk about is what are some embarrassing things that you didn't know before law school that you just kind of pretended to know because you heard it or because it seemed like just common knowledge? So
Abby, it's
Abby,
most recent
Abby.
for you. So
it was pretty recent. So this summer so it's technically before I started law school, I figured it out. But indictment, didn't entirely know what it meant, but I heard it a lot. And then when I read it, I would always say indictment, and I thought that just meant like you were really angry at someone, basically. Like, their indictment.
I'm so indicted at you.
Yeah, exactly. But the C is for some reason doesn't sound like that.
Silent.
Right.
Yeah.
Silency.
Can you think of another word that even sounds like that? Because I cannot. I think it's pretty.
But
Dumb.
you learned about indictment because you've heard it a million times when since Trump has been elected.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of one on the fly here, but I didn't know that there were only 9 justices on the federal Supreme Court.
Wait, what?
What'd
you
you
didn't
think?
you didn't know that there were 9 Supreme Court justices?
I thought
when
there was
you
like
started law
13.
school?
I thought there was like 13 to be
Wow.
honest with you.
They were for a while.
And
Yeah. So that's
I had an undergrad degrry in legal studies, so
That's a
Hamlin,
that's a
I work
little
here.
embarrassing.
All my money
That's a
is
little-
going towards
that's a
that.
little embarrassing.
It's a little embarrassing.
There was so much I didn't know. I didn't know really. I still don't know apparently, but defendant and plaintiff, like which side they were on. I didn't know that civil and criminal were actually like 2 branches of law. I didn't know that not every lawyer is a litigator. I didn't know that bail is like a deposit that gets refunded when you show up, which makes more sense now.
I literally didn't know that until you said that, like before this episode.
Yeah.
I was like, that makes so much sense. But no.
Yeah,
I thought
so
it was just gone when you paid it.
yeah,
That's
so
how
when
those
they
bail
s-
bound sharks make so much money.
Yeah,
It's a
so when
racket.
they say you're held, they hold you a bail for like $10,000. It's not like you literally just give them $10,000 and it's
No, it's
all
usually like a
gone.
percentage.
Yeah, you usually have to. It's basically a deposit, and then if you have to go to a bail bondsman, then they take
As you often do.
Yeah, all the time. For all those times I get arrested, then they take a percentage of that. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Mitch?
So I had no idea what a tort was until I actually took
Me
torts.
either.
I mean, I was just like, I don't
Showed
know,
up
but it's
day one. Was
yeah.
like, all right, let's see what this is about.
I'm
I
like,
don't
torts,
think it's a
great.
French pastry class, but we'll.
Yeah, and actually, I didn't even know that a tort was a pastry until someone had said it, and so I was absolutely clueless on what any kind of tort was. So when they said it, I'm like, I have no idea what a tort was. I just knew, I had found out it's like a cause of action. Basically, I just think of it as you're gonna try and sue somebody. Yeah, you got to use a tort.
Yeah,
so.
civil crimes.
Yeah.
Non-criminal things that you sue people for.
Yeah. I did know that there was a difference between the civil and the criminal, but I think it might just be easier when you're older because this knowledge just kind of goes
It seeps in.
through. I've taken a couple business law courses as well, and so that was pretty much all just civil action, unless we talked about white collar crime, and then we'd get into criminal, but that was about it.
Yeah. Duty, breach of duty, causation, damages.
Yep.
Very good.
That's
You're
torts.
doing that right now?
Yeah, there you go. Abby, there you go. You're welcome. I helped you prepare.
Yeah, thanks.
That's all you have to know. All you have to know about negligence, yeah.
Yeah, that's all negligence is.
What about the intentional torts, Hannah?
Duty, breach of duty, causation, damages.
Intentional torts.
Yeah.
I
Hit
watched
me.
that.
So
That's
for anybody
battery.
who couldn't see,
That is battery.
he committed battery. Oh, we should say that for anybody here who isn't in law school or is not a lawyer, the difference between battery and assault, because people get that wrong quite often.
Well, and Anthony made the point that it is also different in Minnesota. The criminal battery is different. Right?
Well, criminal assault. Criminal assault includes battery and assault. So when you say I was
Okay.
assaulted, it could be verbal or it could be actual physical hitting.
Okay, see, that makes more sense to me because when I started to learn in torts that assault was only verbal, I was confused, but I think it's because I grew up in Minnesota where people refer to like physical and verbal.
Right.
Like,
Like
Yeah.
if someone
In
came up
Wisconsin,
behind
like
you
that
and like
too.
hit you with a bat, you wouldn't have been assaulted, you would have been battered. But if you would have saw the guy coming up ready to hold the bat at your head, that could be considered assault, and then if he hits you with it, then it becomes a battery as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, does assault always have it has the
You have to be aware.
apprehension?
You have to know it's
yeah,
happening.
okay.
Apprehension.
Yeah.
Apprehension is
That's what it is.
Yeah, so it's
Words
different.
aren't enough.
It's different between the civil torts.
And it has to be pretty much immediate. I mean, I don't think only a couple cases
Yep.
where doing it over the phone could be considered assault, but it's
Right.
like very rare cases.
Our Dean Vischer, who teaches my torts class, was talking about that, and like to be assault, you would have to say like on the phone, "I'm coming to get you. I'm driving through your house right now to hit you," and then that would be the imminent, apprehension of harm or offensive
oh
contact.
yeah, imminent apprehension of harm.
Oh, yeah.
This is all very
Throwback.
familiar to you. Right? Are you in torts right now?
I am in torts
You're both
right
in
This is
now.
torts.
the one
right now.
class we all have in common, I think.
Yeah,
Is
well,
it
the ones
really?
that we've all
Yeah.
that we're all
Or like
are
legal
taking
writing of
are
some sort. We all did.
legal
maybe.
legal writing and torts is ones that we've
I mean,
all either
as a matter
taken
of
or-
law, Hannah and I are experts at tort. As a matter of law,
I tort all the time.
Yeah. Commit torts.
we have taken the course and we have passed it. So as a matter of law, we are now experts.
You got
Pretty sure I
amazing
passed.
grades too in that course, right?
Of course.
I will not disclose. Mitch, have you looked at any grades?
C's
Are you
get
true to your word that
degrees,
you're not going
Mitch.
to look at any of your grades?
I looked at my torts midterm just because I was really curious because
Multiple
I
choice
thought
or
I
essay?
did. It was an essay one, so he gave this huge long case and or a huge long description. And there
Fact
was just
pattern,
fact
yeah.
pattern. There was like that was just ridiculous. There were like a million torts within there, and so you had to go out and identify all the different torts. And so I actually did really well, which
That
was
is surprising.
So I'm
Yeah.
not gonna. Yeah, thank you. So
Jinx.
I am. So since I did really well on the midterm, I probably won't look at my my final. I haven't looked at any. I haven't looked at any. I've done memos for lawyering skills. Haven't looked at what my final grade is.
I was going to say, like, how did your friend pass? I mean, like, the point of law school is you get your feedback back so you can understand where you did wrong, and you can.
I think he probably like would look at like what he did on like a test or something like that, maybe.
But it's no final grades.
But just no final grades. He just figured like after he took the final, he was like, well, they'll tell me if I did something wrong. So
Yeah, sometimes you can get the exams. If they don't write the grade on it, you could review your exam with the comments without getting the grade if the professor like keeps them separate. But
So let's go through questions that people have asked. But I think the biggest one is how did the whole idea of creating this podcast for law students from the 3 different law schools come about? So the idea kind of came to me just in that I had listened to a couple different legal podcasts. The main one I listened to was Preet Bharara. He's he's an interesting guy. He was a U.S. attorney for the southern part of New York, which includes Manhattan. So that's where a lot of like white collar crime happens. So I prosecuted a lot of that under the Obama administration.
I think I follow him on Twitter. I did not know he had
He's
a podcast.
He's a great tweeter, yeah. Yeah, I think it's called Stay Tuned. So I listened to that, and I was really interested, and I got into law school, and so I thought it would be interesting to do a law school podcast, but I didn't want to do it with people from the University of St. Thomas. I thought it might be more interesting if I got people from the U of M and from the Mitchell-Hamlin School of Law.
since we do, I wonder, because I know, I mean, like Boston, New York, a lot of cities have multiple law schools, but I don't know. I feel like for a city of our size, maybe it's kind of unique to have 3 law schools so close together.
I'm the only ones in the state.
And the only ones in the
Yeah.
state, too. Yeah, like Duluth doesn't have one. Rochester doesn't have one.
Yeah, so I mean, it would have been like really hard if we were in like Illinois or California, where they have law schools that are hundreds of miles apart. Whereas in Minneapolis and the Twin Cities, it basically has the 3 schools. So
It's like
it was
within, like, I don't know, U of M and St. Thomas are like a mile,
yeah,
if that, apart.
We're both like almost right next to downtown Minneapolis, and then
It's a train ride.
and then it's a
Yeah.
train ride to Mitchell Hamlin. I mean, you can probably get without traffic. You can probably get there in 5 to 10 minutes from here. So, it was pretty easy, and so I was able to set it up. I think with with a little bit of luck and a little bit of perseverance. That's kind of how it started. The second thing is, how did you find each other? And I get this all the time. Did you all know each other before you started the podcast?
Hell no.
Does
No.
anybody?
I'm going to set the scene. It's 1874. Past life. All of us in the trenches. There was probably a war then. I don't know good history. But
Would it have
yes.
been when was the Mexican-American War?
1874, you said?
No, she said. What,
I did say 1874. Probably several wars. Was Civil War over by that point?
Couldn't you have said 19 or 18 like 63?
1993. Desert Storm.
In a dugout.
Most of us are alive by this point. Child Army.
Coney's
together.
rampant.
We banded together, and we got separated, and we said, one day, I'll see you in law school, buddy. Let's be podcasters. So that was basically the story,
I
right?
think 93. Yeah. I think Abby was still in utero at that time.
Oh,
so
no, I
that
was
would-
not even.
Oh, that's a good album, though, by
Not
Nirvana.
even.
Not
Yeah.
even conceived. Okay, well, you were a dream, a whiskey dream. You were like the
let's go
benzene
for that.
ring.
Yeah.
I was swimming around, too.
Do we want to go around the room and just want to go around the room and see how you guys decided to be on the podcast, or how this came to be?
Okay, so summer 2018, sitting in the attic of my old house, get a message on LinkedIn from Mitch. Yeah.
Any
It's
story that
wow,
starts
this
with
is the first
LinkedIn.
time a real person has ever messaged me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
I think it was.
Wow.
And you were like, hey, I'm doing a podcast. You gave a lot of details. So I was like, wow, I work at a radio station. And also going to law school. That sounds fun. I have nothing to do because it's the summer. So I said yes. And then you sent me some, like, what I thought were, like, very lawyerish, like, descriptions of what the show was going to be about. Like, you really contracted it out, I thought. It's like, wow, this is really intense. Yeah.
I was going through U of M law student profiles. Then I came across yours, and it showed that you worked for Radio
Yeah.
K. I'm like, oh, thank goodness I'll have someone who's like a professional that actually like knows how to talk in the microphone and everything, and knows how kind
So
of
pro.
the whole spiel works. And I was absolutely right. Abby is a pro. So
It's true. It's a beautiful story.
Let's see, 2018, August, early August. No, it was June, July.
Yeah, probably July.
I was sitting at home on my computer,
Same.
and my now wife was sitting with me, and then I got a message on LinkedIn from this Mitchell guy. That's why I was like, I don't know who this is, Ab, and I just thought it was like another spammer. And then you started talking
And it was
about
true.
It was true, yeah.
podcasting, and I asked Abby. I turned to her. I was like, "What's a podcast?"
Really?
I didn't really know
Wow.
what podcasts were. I was like, "Well, it sounds interesting enough." And I had just been elected to a representative for my class for a school, so I was like, "You know what? Whatever. I think I could manage the time." So I messaged him back. I'm like, "All right, cool. I don't know what this is, but sounds interesting, and I need some experience doing whatever this is." I was like,
Public speaking.
I'm like,
kind
whatever.
of.
Like this, maybe I don't know what this is, but maybe it's resume material. Whatever. We'll just.
Definitely not resume. Then you're like,
you
wow,
should-
this definitely is not.
This is what is known
resume